It is. How's it, guys? Welcome to Get Into Grips, brought to you by Godox SA and Golden Power Batteries. So today I don't have a beautiful model in studio today, so I'm just going to have to show you some real cool lighting that you can do with e-commerce pack shots. So obviously with the world of e-commerce and everybody having websites put up, selling stuff online, it is important for a photographer to make some money this way by streamlining the way you shoot your e-commerce. So pack shots, pure white backgrounds, good quality images, that is what clients are going to be looking for. But you've got to actually do it in such a way that you can do it quick, efficient, and get the images out. So that's what I'm going to show you today. So as you can see, I'm going to be shooting on a white background, obviously, and then I've got two stands there, and I'm going to use a couple of lights on the backgrounds, which are my 8300 Pros. So these bad boys are always used in studio. These are going to be our backlights, just two of them, 45 degrees, pointing onto the background, and that's what's going to actually light up a lot of our stuff, which I will show you in the setup just now. The other lights I'm going to be using is the 8400. Let me just turn it around this way. So that's the 8400 Pro. So I'm going to be using this as my key light, which I'll also be showing you where that's going. Let me put it in the box. Okay, so why is e-commerce so important? To make sure you do it quickly and efficiently. I'm just going to share on a couple of things that I do. When a client says, oh, I need 200 product shot, and they'll send it through by a courier or they'll drop it off. The main thing I've got to do to make sure that I can get through the stuff quickly, shoot it quickly, and make money doing this is getting the products out, separating them into different sizes, into the sizes. So if I know that there's going to be a whole load of bottles the same size, I'll group those together. And then if there's slightly larger bottles, I'll group those together. Stuff like that, which will actually make your shooting time a lot more streamlined and a lot faster. So that's what I'm going to be touching on as well. So let me set these two lights up. I'm going to go through the setup basically from the back, working forward until we get right up to the front, and then we will then start shooting, and I will then go through the editing process afterwards. All right, so let me set these up. So these two backlights are going to actually be facing 45 degrees into the actual background. Let me just put these up, and where are we here? I'm on that camera. Cool. So these lights are probably around about a meter away from the background, okay? Pointing 45 degrees, so literally we'll get a nice glow of light there, and that will actually come back also onto our setup, which I'll show you now. So the next thing I'm going to do on this setup is actually to get two polyboards, and I'm actually going to put the polyboards actually in front of the lights here, and let me just do that quickly. Right. With the polyboards, I'm going to stand over here so you can still see me. With the polyboards, I'm actually going to put the white side facing the white wall. So when light is actually hitting this, it's reflecting back, creating a bit of a bounce, and eventually coming through a space that I'm going to leave between the two boards. Let me get the other one here. Any questions so far? Is anybody online? Anybody saying hi? Yeah? Okay. So we got the two. I'm just going to go back to this front camera. Okay, so we got the two polyboards set up, and you can see that the black is actually facing the camera side, and that will be for a reason which we will get to also in the setup. So the next thing we obviously need is a table to actually put the products on. So let's just get this. So I've just got this old camping table because it folds up and it goes up against the wall and stuff. So Obviously, with big, heavier products, you'll probably need a bit more sturdier table. But for now, we're just going to use this camping one. The products that I'm going to be shooting today is stuff that I picked up from the store down the road, as well as some household products and stuff like that. So with the table in place, there is one additional thing we need to put on the table to make sure that our pure whites are pure whites. And that is a piece of white gloss acrylic. So this is actually perspex, acrylic, whatever you want to call it, plexiglass. It's just the white gloss, and literally we're going to just put this on top of the table. Okay, so what this is actually going to do, it's going to actually allow the light to come through the boards, hit this white perspex, and give us that seamless sort of white between the white background and the actual tabletop. Even though we're probably around about 1.5 meters away, the light coming through when we set it up, it'll be so pure white that you will just see an infinite white background, which is what we're going for in this type of photography. So we have that set up. Now what I need to do is make sure I put my key light in. But before I do that, I want to put a diffuser panel between the actual key light and the actual table. So here's one I've got, and it's just on a C-stand. So it's just on the C-stand, clipped in place on the top, and I've clipped it in on the side just so it doesn't move around and flop around, because these are the type of things you get in your 5-in-1 or your 7-in-1 type of kits which you can get, and all it is a shoot-through panel, which I call a diffuser panel, and putting it onto a C-stand and getting it into place. All right. Okay. So we've got that. So what does a diffuser panel actually do? So it helps to actually soften the light. So if you actually imagine now you've got a bottle or you're taking a picture of something, the softbox will give that hard sort of light edge on it. What you want to do is actually just diffuse that a little bit more, make it a bit softer, make it a bit more gradient on the actual light. So that's why we're going to put this diffuser panel up between my light with a softbox actually up against here. So 8400 Pro with a Godox rectangular softbox. This is actually I think it's a 60 by 90 softbox. And I'm just going to put that in behind. I've actually put it as an angle as well. So actually almost will create a bit of a gradient of light. So you'll get a stronger piece of light coming through, and then it will soften a bit more on as it actually comes through the diffuser. So we got the one light set up. Now we obviously need light on the other side because we're lighting from one side. We don't want shadows on the other side. We want a bit of bounce. So you can set up a second light, but I'm not going to do a second light. I'm actually going to put a piece of foam board just to bounce back the actual light there. So let me just go and get that. All right. So weird not having a modeling studio, eh? But we can do this. So I'm just going to bring this in. Just going to bring it up to the table there. So we've almost now created this tunnel for the products to actually sit in. Okay, so this is the actual setup that we're going to be using. So it doesn't take long to actually set up the actual environment for you to actually be able to shoot. But you'll be glad that you do something like this, because it will save you a lot of work in editing. Because the main thing as well, if you're doing pack shots, you don't want to have to be deep etching products. You don't want to have to be messing around with the whites. You don't want to have to be trying to put in reflection on the product. Get that all right in camera, and it will make your life a lot easier. So, what am I using today? Don't be scared about the lens that I've got on here. This is the actual 180mm macro lens. And the reason I've put this on is so when I'm actually shooting, I'll be a bit further away so you can actually see over the top of me. So that's why this one is on. Got the Canon 6D. I've got my tethering cable, which I'll set up the tethering just now. And I have my X Pro 2C for my Canon. And that is it. So that's what we're going to be using. My camera settings around about f9, 1/25th of a second on the shutter, and 100 ISO. So that's what I'm going to be looking at camera setting wise. So working with products. Now there's a couple of things that you're going to need when you're actually doing pack shots, and that'd be things like a micro cloth to actually wipe down the product. If there's any fingerprinting or anything on there, just wipe the stuff down, wipe the dust off, and that's going to save you a lot of editing as well. And a pair of gloves. Now you can use cotton gloves, you can use anything like that. I'm using the gloves that came with my lens cleaning kit. So I'm going to put these on. Although I'll probably take it off just now when I set up my tethering, but just to let you know. Right. Important. Now, if you're shooting a product, so for instance, I've got my lens here, it's going to be one of the things. Wipe it down properly. Have your gloves on so you don't leave fingerprints all over the place, because if you have like a, say the front of the flash where you actually have the infrared or the actual red section on the front of your flash, you're going to put a fingerprint on there and it's going to stay on there, and believe me, your camera is going to pick that thing up and you're going to spend ages trying to edit that out. So make sure the products are actually clean before you actually put them down on your table. So some of the products we're going to be shooting today is going to be some cold drink type stuff and some honey, and I've got a bottle of Coke there as well, just to show you how we're going to use those black boards to actually define edges where there's no liquid and stuff like that. So it's going to be a lot of information around that as well. So let me get hold of the first product. Any questions so far about the setup? Nothing there? Nothing? Cool. Right. So when I start shooting this stuff, it's going to be quite quick. So I'm going to be literally putting it in place, coming back, taking a shot, going to get the next one, put it down, taking a shot. So it's all about speed and stuff on this setup. So let's put the prime drink down here. Right, so I'm going to be just putting it down, making sure prime's in the middle. I'm going to be turning these backlights on. And that's both on, and then my 8400. Okay. The light settings I'm going to be using here, because I'm shooting f9, I'm probably going to have my backlights sitting at probably about a quarter power, the 8300s, because as I said, we're about probably 1.5 meters away, so that light's going to bounce back through that space and give us that pure white, seamless white. So background lights, I'm just going to take this off and just show in the camera here. Now if we can see here. Talia, can you see on the camera there? Not. Maybe if I turn, if we see there. Okay, so the backlight is actually sitting at 1/4 power, and our key light is actually sitting at 1/8, which is on group A. So that's what I'm going to start with. And the nice thing about also having your light on the side there, if you need to actually, instead of bringing the power down on the light and you just want to get a slightly different effect, you can actually move this light backwards and forwards on the side here to give you that different lighting. So you, say for instance, you're taking a picture of a white box, and now all of a sudden your softbox is so close to your diffuser, it's giving you a hotspot on the top corner of your box, and you just want to actually get rid of that hotspot. Just pull your light back just a little bit, and then you should come right. All right, so I think the first shot, what I'm going to do is just to show you what the different lights do. I'm actually going to turn off the back 2 on my trigger. Let me go on to B. I'm going to turn off the 2 backlights. So literally, we're just going to be firing the actual main key light.
I have a question.
Okay, question?
The question is from Darshan. He said, "Hi, Karl. What camera would you say is best for product photography, used for advertisements and sponsored brand posts for social media?"
Well, if you're doing a lot of studio work, I think most of the new sort of Canon, well, I'm shooting with Canon, I mostly shoot with Canon, but I've had a look at the R8s, the R6s, which have been very cool on the Canons. I'm still shooting with, obviously, with a 6D Mark I. So my megapixels are a lot smaller. It just depends on what size they're wanting to actually push those things up. If they're wanting to push those things up, then obviously you need to get a camera with a larger image size. And so you can look at probably the R8, the R6, somewhere around there if you're shooting Canon. The other brands I'm not too sure of. I haven't messed around. I've been shooting Canon since I've started. So yeah, I hope, did that answer your question? Eh? Okay, my 6D Mark I, I've been using for 12 years. So it's been with me a long time. So if Canon SA is out there, please, if you want to let me try some of your R6 Mark IIs, then I will gladly help you out. But for today, I'm going to be shooting with my old faithful Canon 6D. Okay. Anything else there, Talia? All answered? Did you answer, Karl? Cool. Right. So I'm going to just set up my tethering quickly. Talia, if you want to bring this other camera down so I can see. Okay, so I'm just using Lightroom because it's part of my Adobe package for my tethering. I would like to probably try and capture one and just see what it's like. But we're going to get that in. Okay. So the camera's picked up. I'm going to get around to this side. Talia, you can put it back onto camera 3. Should be fine. Talia, camera 3. Right. All right, so I'm going to shoot now with, put it on the back camera there, Talia. I'm going to shoot horizontal, and I'm going to make sure that I'm not in the way so you guys can see. Now, everyone that watches my stuff, I always shoot a no flash, no picture, just to make sure what I'm shooting is what I'm expecting. So I'm gonna just line up here, and that should be my black canvas. coming in. Cool. All right. So the first shot I'm actually going to do is actually going to be the one where I'm just shooting with the actual key light on. I just want to straighten my camera up here. Okay. Just the key light. So you can see with this shot, you can actually, it's coming through. So this is just the actual key light itself. So you can see the background is very dark. You've got shadows on the actual acrylic base. So the backlights are going to be the crucial part of actually finishing the shot off. So I don't know what camera I'm on, Talia. Which one? This one. Okay. So basically with this, I'm actually going to now put on just the backlights so you can see what the actual backlights do and how the two will actually give you your perfect, perfect shot. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the key light, turn on the backlights. So the backlights only. Oh, that fired all the lights because now that is let me just turn that one off. Just do the backlights. There. So it actually comes through quite. I'm just thinking here, where is A? Turn off A. Let me just see. There you go. All right. So let me just shoot with the backlights on. That's better. So there you go. With the backlights, you can now see on the image where the backlights are just coming through and they're actually making that totally seamless behind the actual product. So with this, by just adding the key light back in place, we're going to start shooting these things rapidly. I just want to check. All right. Both lights. And there you've got a perfect white background. Just going to move back a little bit just to give us a little bit more space on the bottom. Oh, there. Okay, so there you can see, so that's the type of shot that we're actually going to be going for. So I'm going to now just shoot a whole load of products, and then what we'll do is we'll get into the editing after that. Any questions around this stuff? Nothing there? No? Cool. So let me get my gloves back on, and I'm going to go and rapid through these products we've got. And give me my cloth. Okay, so I'm going to shoot all the prime. Actually, this prime is the same color as my cloth. Just give it a wipe down. Make sure there's no fingerprints. Making sure the bottle is in the middle. We want to get consistency is important with products. And then I'm going to come back in and shoot. I'm just going to lock my tripod down or my stand down. And shoot. Okay. So I'm going to lock it down there. Wipe these bottles down. The reason I use these prime bottles, even in my workshops, when I do this type of stuff in a workshop, because the colors are so awesome. That's about it. They taste absolutely disgusting, but they are actually great colors to shoot. Okay, next one. And you see how basically rapid you can actually shoot this stuff. it takes you longer to probably just wipe the bottle down than it does to shoot it. Okay. All right. Just going to bring one of these blue bowls in. I've wiped these down. Just going to shoot a few of these. Oh. There you go. And I'm going to do the pink one. So these are wiped. Okay. So you can see already straight from camera, these images are pretty good and quite clean. And right, I think that's enough of the bottles. Right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot a couple of products that we've got. So this is an old Godox flash, so there will be a couple of scratches on it, but we just want to make sure there's no fingerprints on the front and on the side where we're going to be shooting. So wipe it down. So to get it in place, I just want to make sure I get the Godox name in the front. I think that is a little bit too much around. Just all right. Let's shoot this one. Let's just see. So already you can see that is nice pure white backgrounds, which we'll do all our double checking, and I will prove it when we get to shooting this stuff. I'm going to do the lens. Let's just do the lens quickly. Now, also what I do is, the reason why I use the white acrylic as well is it automatically puts a reflection in for me. So I don't have to try and do this in Photoshop. It's easier to remove that than it is to try and recreate this reflection on the images that we're getting from the acrylic. Okay. I think just bring me up on camera, on the main camera there. I'm just going to move my, just going to unlock the tripod. Okay, so we've got a couple of images there. I'm going to shoot a couple more because I want to show you exactly why I use these black boards, because it does serve a purpose. And not only because it's giving us that nice narrow piece of light. If you were actually shooting something like Coke bottle, so you've literally now got all your dark liquid that's in there that you can see, and then you've got the piece between the actual top and the actual liquid, which is transparent, it's totally clear. So when you're shooting this on white, it's going to disappear. So it's going to basically look like it's actually missing. So this is where the boards actually come into play. So if I just put this in the middle here, And if these were even slightly wider apart, so we have a lot of light coming back through, and this could possibly just disappear in, and it would look like there's a piece missing in the bottle, but it's not. So I'm going to take the shot. So if you want to bring up Lightroom there again, that's it. Okay, so just going to get this lined up again here.
Here's a question.
Okay. You can give me the question.
The question is from OBK Photos. Do you prefer manual focusing or auto focusing when shooting products?
I use, it depends on thing. I mainly use autofocusing. I will actually, because with my Canon, it's the old one, so I literally have my center focus. So wherever I want to focus, I just there reposition. Very old style of doing things, but that is what we used to do with digital SLRs. We didn't have all this eye following, face following, and all that type of stuff. So this camera is still quite basic on its focusing system, but it works well. So I shoot with mainly autofocus when I'm shooting. Although you got to watch when you're shooting product, which is wide, long, and you want to shoot on an angle, then obviously you then mess around with your aperture to make sure you get front to back in focus. And actually doesn't really then matter where you focus as long as you've got your depth in your depth of field to get all of that product actually in focus. And obviously with that high f-stop up to maybe f16, I've shot the f16 on some products. Your backlights, if you're shooting on a white, your backlights need to actually really pump some power in. So either the 8300s would be on full power, or I would actually put the 8400s behind and light up with the 8300 lights. So that's what I do on that side of things. Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to actually just check on this. Just get that Lightroom back up there, Talia. All right. So you can actually see, or you can see just a slight outline. If I want to actually make those lines actually darker on the neck of the bottle, so I want to actually put more definition on that neck, all I do is I will actually bring the blackboards in more, just enough for the product to actually be shot. So I think there should be enough of a gap. So I'm going to shoot the Coke bottle again and just check the neck of the bottle should become a bit more defined in the picture. Yeah. So just by bringing those boards actually in, actually gives us a more defined line on the neck. And that's why you use these type of things, especially with shooting Coke bottles. We still got the pure white. We still got, because we're going to crop and size it anyway in Photoshop, but that will at least give you that defined edge on that clear space of the actual bottle itself. And shooting at f9, I'm focusing actually on the label. With the f9 on this product, it's more than enough depth of field to get everything in focus on that. So that's shooting that type of product. And the same goes if I'm actually shooting things like honey and that type of thing. So you imagine now you're shooting a honey product. It's also very transparent. The light's going to come through this quite a lot. Those blackboards close in like this, you're going to get very dark edges down the actual product. So you would open up the boards a little bit just to get more light in on the actual honey. Let's just do it as a example just to show. So that's the honey there. All right. So I'm going to just take a shot here. Right, so if you actually look at this image, you'll see that the actual boards are actually coming into the honey. So you see those thick lines down the side. I can see it more on my computer than it's on the screen. But if I open those boards up, we're going to get a lot more light, and they're going to be a little bit more softer on the actual darkening on the edges. Let me just do that quick. Right. Let me take another shot here. Now you can see, I can see on the image now where those are actually getting smaller down the side of the actual honey bottle. So having those boards actually does help creating some dark edging, some dark lines into your product. Okay, any questions so far around the setup? Anything about the setup? Okay, so what if we were shooting a white box on a white product? Let me just move this camera over. Because now obviously we're blasting a lot of light through the actual back of this, and we're pushing light in on the side. How do we light something that is white? Let's take a good old Godox product. So now we want to actually put this in there, and we actually want to light it and make sure that it's the white box is actually seen against the white background, and obviously with no hot spotting. So I'm going to take a shot on the angle first. I think that should be fine on. And that should be fine there. So I'm not going to change any of the power settings, nothing. I'm just going to keep it stock standard how we've been shooting. And let me just bring this camera in. Focus and shoot. So I think that looks actually quite cool. So we've actually done it first time. So let me just move what I explained earlier. If you actually had your softbox closer in to your diffuser, we'll probably get a hotspot on the top corner. Okay, it's just. Let's see if we get that. A bit brighter on the corner, but we still got it fine. So that's cool. So shooting a white box with a white background, because that box is not going to be pure white, we will get the separation on that, and that was fine. So other things, what is this? Air freshener bottles. Also got white edging. As well, so these are white really down the side and in the front. So I'm going to just pull these boards a little bit closer together. And also something that I actually didn't show, which I should have probably when setting your white balance, I normally put a gray card in before I actually shoot, but I did do the white balance earlier on before going live. So oh, that's just the backlight. Let's just get that front light. So let's have a look at there. Yeah, we got the defined edge. Those boards are coming in, giving us a defined edge. So I think that's enough product that we got shot. What I'm going to do is actually go into Lightroom and take it into Photoshop. There is an action I use to resize for the e-commerce stuff. And then it obviously does sharpening and all sorts of stuff. So I can actually make that action available. If anybody's keen to get that action, I can actually give that to you guys. So let's look at the editing process. So just bring me down onto camera, onto the other camera. So yeah, that just bring me up. That's it. Cool. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go through some of the images that I shot. I'm going to just go and check them, make sure the whites are white and everything else. So, and then we'll bring it across to Photoshop. We'll then crop it, finish it off, run the action, and then you can see that was then complete. So it doesn't take long to shoot the stuff. It often takes me about five minutes, as I said, just to set up normally. And then we can do that. So I'm cool with that. I think I'm just going to touch a bit more on the blacks just to bring a bit on the whites, just to give us a bit more on there. Then I'm just going to take this into Photoshop. Edit in Photoshop. I do a lot of my editing in Photoshop. I only really use the Lightroom for my tethering. So, okay. So cropping, I'm just going to crop square. And obviously just straightening up. I don't know why my straighten up on the product. That's right. So we're going to crop that. So one thing that I do is I make sure that my whites, I just get the eyedropper tool. I then open up the actual color picker. And if I click down here, click over here, click over here, it's all 255. So we've shot this thing in camera, fine. We don't have to worry about the background whatsoever. If I click on here just to prove to you that it does change, there you go, it does change. So we've got those whites. So knowing that we've got perfect white, I then will just, you can either just take a brush or do whatever you want to do and just brush out what you don't want. So we can okay. So there's your shot. And I normally do a check on levels, and I can see my whites are right up against the edge there. So that's where I know that is. If you want to bring in a bit of your blacks or your darks just to on the image, and a bit of your mids. Obviously, this is going to be determined on what you actually want to do and the way you want the image to actually look. So I think that's cool. Then I just go to my actions. Now I've got an e-commerce toolkit action that I actually run, which does image sizing, sharpening, image size, sharpen, and just basically merges the layers. So that's what I will run on this. And there we have our shot. So that that is as simple as it is. I'm going to just bring a couple of more images. Any questions? Yeah. Not yet. Hey, let's take one of these pink drinks. So I'm going to bring in blacks. I'm not even going to touch the whites. Let's bring this straight into Photoshop just to see. Come on, Lightroom, where are you? There you go. Edit in Photoshop. Let's just go back to Photoshop here. Okay, so there's square cropping again. I'm just going to straighten up. I normally level my camera when I do this. Okay, so we got the shot there. Just to prove we didn't touch the whites in Lightroom. And I just want to check on the color picker. 255, 255, 255, 255, 255. Everything is 255. If your client doesn't want the shadow there, you can literally create another layer and just brush out some of the shadow because we know it's pure white. And that is that. Click on my background, run the action. Let's just check on these levels. Yeah, the whites, the highlights are right up there. So you can play around with your darks to get what you would like. And I think that is fine anyway there, as is. And let's just zoom into this. And the product is sharp. I mean, it's pure white. The edges are cool. The top is cool. Everything looks great. So that is how simple doing e-commerce pack shooting is. Anything else that you need to do on this image is literally just your levels and stuff that just is going to be to what you actually prefer. The lighting on the bottle is cool. It's actually great down the side. And we got the bounce from the card on this side. So we've got sort of the gloss look across the logo, where we see that darker gray in the middle, and we see the highlight of the logo on the side, which looks pretty cool on that. All right, let me just get another one of these images up. Let's check one of the prime bottles. Let's go. So this one I'm going to use, get the blacks down a bit. That's there. And maybe the saturation up a bit, pop these colors a little bit. And then take it into Photoshop. Get my cropping tool. Just straighten this up a bit. And obviously, because now I've got my background color is white, if I want to give a bit more room on the head of this, I can. So there we've got that. We've got our whites, which are right up against there, so I know that it's true white. And we can just adjust the levels a little bit. This mouse on Windows. That's cool. That's fine. Okay, and then run the action. And then I just then export these things out once I've run the action, I just export it out to a folder, and that is it. It's really, really that simple. As I said, bring in a layer. I know I'm pure white. Just run that across the bottom, and that is done. Image done, finished, edited. I think on that too, you can see it's your pure whites. Let's do the one with the flash. Where did I add the flash? And then what I normally do is I do make sure, obviously with a client, if they're wanting multiple angles of a product, like for instance for a flash, you might want a side with the head up, you might want the back of the flash, you might want front of the flash with the actual head down. So I obviously price that differently because obviously it's 3 shots instead of 1 shot. So in the pricing structure, I have amount of images with multiple angles of up to 3 angles is this price, and single shot items is this price per image. And that's the way I basically price that. So sometimes I get 200 products, sometimes I get 10 products, and some of the products are multiple angles, some of them are single angles. So we work out the pricing according for the client. Blacks, and I'm just going to up the whites a little bit on that. Cool. No fingerprints on the front. That's great. And you can see it's quite a clean image there. So already, straight from camera, you've got a pretty good image. Just to edit that in Photoshop. Check the levels, make sure happy with that. Whites are right up there. We can bring the blacks in a little bit and crop it. Bring it into the middle. Crop. And then I'm just going to run the action. Didn't merge with the mask, the unshapen mask on that, but select the background. I'll change the action to select the background and just put that in there. And there is your Godox flash. So doing your product is no different from shooting anything else. I mean, I didn't change any of the setup. Obviously, once you start working with very reflective type stuff, then you need to then start looking at more diffusers around the actual product and making sure you get a nice non-reflecting. You don't want to see yourself in a trophy. If you're shooting a trophy, you don't want to see yourself in the trophy. So you need to almost build up a bit of a diffusing tint and then shoot and then shoot that way. Yeah, so any questions on this? I think just maybe take me back to just the full camera view there while I sit here.
So Moonrise asks, what equipment was used to capture the product shot on this live?
Okay, so the equipment used, the lighting was two 8300 Pros that were actually behind the actual poly boards that are there. And then I had an 8400 Pro, which is actually sitting behind the diffuser panel. But don't get hung up about, these are all 8300s, 8400 Pros, they're all Pro lights. I actually had a student actually in studio last week where I actually did the same setup. He had a V1, an 860, and an 8100. And I did exactly the same setup here. All I did was move the actual setup closer to the background because obviously with the power, we use 2 speed lights to actually light up the back to bring that light forward. And then we had the 8100 with no modifier sitting behind the diffuser panel, and we did a couple of product shots. So don't get hung up around, it's an 8400, it's an 8300. I've done it with speed lights and an 80-100, same setup to actually get that. And then the camera and stuff was my Canon 6D Mark I. The lens I had on there was the 180mm macro. The reason I put that longer lens on is so I could actually sit further back so the camera could see over my head. That was the only reason. You can use your zoom lens, you can use 100mm macro, you can use any type of glass that you've actually got to actually shoot it. It's not, don't get hung up on too much on the equipment, but look at maybe the sort of flow that you can create to make things faster, because this is what this is all about. Shooting pack shots, you need to shoot it quickly to make your money. Sorting out the product beforehand, putting it in the right sizes, the right shapes and everything else, doing that type of stuff. Shooting it is very quick. You put it in, you shoot it, and then coming back and just doing your crop, running an action, getting it exported out. That is the type of stuff you need to sort of focus on, because that's going to give you the money in your pocket at the end of the day. Okay, did that answer that question? Any more on there, Talia?
No.
Okay, so any more questions then? No more there? Let me just get that Coke bottle one up that I did. Or even, where's the Coke bottle? Yeah. Hey. Right, so this is what I was mentioning on the Coke bottle. So these lines here, these darker sort of defined lines actually on the top of the Coke bottle are brought in from these boards here. If you had these boards further apart, you'll get more light coming through and these lines will disappear. So you'll end up with a product that is fine up to the point where the Coke stops, and then it'll be sort of white and then fine again where the lid is. So having these boards also in the back, so you can actually open them and close them closer to your product to be able to define these lines on products that have got clear areas where they would just go white. So let me just bring this one into Photoshop. I'm just going to bring the blacks on this one down. And edit in Photoshop. Let's just get across. Is it coming open? Is it going to open? Where is it? And let's see. Okay, it's not going to open. But I think in wrapping up, I think that's pretty much how simple it is. But it's actually having the understanding of how to do the setup so you're not doing too much in post-production, because I don't want to do too much around this by deep etching around a product and trying to get the whites right. I want to get that right in camera. So that is what I'm going to do. So just bring me back onto main camera there, Talia. I'm going to bring up some of the things that is happening in Godox SA. So I'm just going to firstly bring up, just waiting for this to come up. This Windows machine is really dying on me. Has it come up on the screen there yet? Not. Here we go. So what do we got happening at Godox SA? So we've literally got the content weekend. So this is with Craig and it's in PE. So get down, there's Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So on Friday night, there's a talk hosted by Craig around the business side of your photography. There's on Saturday at 9 through to 11, there's demonstration with lighting with Craig, and then also creating your content, and where you can try out the Godox and the Nisi products. Actually, they're creating some content. And then on the Sunday, environmental portraiture and seascape session. So Craig's going to be very busy on that weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So don't miss out on that one. And then another thing we got happening, we have the wedding workshop, which is then hosted by Lut. He's actually a Godox ambassador as well. Make sure you get through to that workshop. If you're even interested in actually taking up wedding photography, or you've been a wedding photographer for years, there's always something we can learn. So have a look at this workshop. This is on the 28th of April. The venue and everything is there, and that's in Magaliesburg area. So time is from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. So it's a long day. So I think the cost is 1,800 Rand per person, but that's a lot of hours just for that little piece of money that you're paying out there. And there's going to be so much information. So make sure you also get across to that. And I think that is pretty much it. I'm just going to now go over to camera, this camera, the main one here, Talia. I'm going to go over to camera 3. So I hope you've actually enjoyed it. I hope you've maybe even learned something with the setup and everything else that I actually did on this. Pack shop photography must be quick for you to actually make money. It mustn't be something like creative product photography where you're embedding a prime bottle into a solid rock with green glow coming out of it. This is all about speed, getting the quality images out for your client. And the faster you do that, the more money you make in your pocket. So that's all I've got to share on that. If there's any other questions that you guys are wanting to actually know or understand about the setup, you can put into the comments. And then any of the equipment that you did see, like we have backgrounds from Golden Power batteries. We use all our paper rolls from Golden Power batteries. The lighting is obviously from Godox SA. So you can use my codes and actually get yourself some instant savings and going forward. So find out more about those events. You can actually get to the Godox site as well, www.godox.co.za, and go and click on the events menu option, and you can see everything there and book your spot. So that's it for now, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you online again soon. Thanks for watching.